can't cast that yet. I'm out of range. That spell isn't ready yet. I need to get closer. I'm out of range. My mana is low. I cannot do that right now. I'm out of range. It is too far away. I cannot leave that right now. That's still recharging. I can't cast that yet. It's still recharging.
Song, Dak. Good song. Ye's in the chat. Pulling up to 20. Tomcat grats. Yo, guys, we're at 19. Let's get one more for 20. Because we're at 18 plus 1. Hey, what?
This all new Aria is an elegant EV.
Yeah, with 389 horsepower. And all-wheel drive.
It's beautiful.
Was there still Wind Fury Totem in TBC? There was, right? Yeah. It was, but then Wrath is gone. Dude, these Shadow Wolves are fucking ripping me, dude.
That spell isn't ready yet. I cannot loot that right now. I don't have a target. It is too far away. I need a target. I don't have a target. I need a target. That's still recharging. I can't cast that yet. I need to get closer. That spell isn't ready yet. I'm out of range. It is too far away. That spell isn't ready yet.
A League of Legends overlay app that can literally help you win more often, thanks to a new OP feature. This new feature is Summoner Spell Tracking. The app displays all...
Hey everyone, and welcome to another video, and today I'm sharing with you my Ahri guide. Now I need to do a quick shout out, Ajax, a Ahri player from the MLA who helped me put together this guide. I've put his Twitch below, his Discord, and OPGG if you're interested. Really, really nice guy, very helpful. Shout out Ajax. Getting into the guide, why Ahri? Now there are a lot of mage players out there who want a little bit of mobility in their pool, but they don't really want to play a hardcore assassin. They don't want to play a LeBlanc, an Akali, or a Zed, or whatever it might be. And so Ahri's that good little middle ground, right? It gives you a bit of mobility in your pool, great into high threat compositions. Now, Ahri in her current form is actually quite a solid blind pick. Traditionally, she wasn't the best blind pick, but now because of all the different itemization choices, she's very, very solid as a blind. She's great for learning the game holistically, good in high elo because of that adaptability to chaos, especially with effectiveness with cheap mythics. Now, I will need to caveat this video with a little bit of a note here that Ahri is in a strong state. Now, if you do pick up Ahri right now, it wouldn't surprise me if she does receive a little bit of a nerf in the near future, but it won't really change her identity in any way, shape, or form, so don't worry about it too much. Just want to kind of put that out there, though, and hence why you're seeing her a lot in competitive, we're seeing her banned in Salt Lake U. Her popularity has risen a lot. Now we're going to get into Ahri's identity and mindset. Now, Ahri has changed a hell of a lot over the past year. She is a very versatile mage now. She can actually be played many differing ways. Back in the day, she was basically primarily a hardcore kind of like one-shot assassin. You would basically only see her with Ludens and things like that. Now she's got a lot more mythic choices. She has a lot more versatility with her identity. So therefore, when you're playing Ahri, one of my biggest pieces of advice is that you want alignment between runes, items, and style, and your play style. So if you go, Ludens, you want to make sure that you're ticking all these boxes. Your runes, your items, Ludens, and all these, and also the way you play Ahri in the game itself all need to make sense. So one of the big themes of this guide is that I'm going to be kind of sharing, okay, what adaptations do we need to make to our gameplay and our runes and our items to make sure that each of these three things are in perfect alignment, and that's going to help you a lot within your solo queue games. Now, little note here as well, you ideally need to specialize when you're learning Ahri, and even just in general when you're climbing. Most Ahri players are going to specialize in a specific style, and then once they gain a lot of mastery and learn Ahri through that lens, then and only then can you start to expand and play all the differing styles. I do think at the highest level you should be able to kind of alternate between all kind of three, the assassin, the facilitator, and the carry. But at the start, I do think you're better off kind of specializing in one of them, and we'll talk about what that Ahri learning journey will look like later on within the guide. Now for the juicy stuff, getting into the details, starting with runes. This is the first rune page. There's a lot of rune pages. We're going to cover them all, don't you worry. Stock standard Electro setup. I would say this is one of the most stock standard setups for Ahri. Electrocute synergizes well with her burst-oriented trades. I'm personally a big fan of Taste of Blood for lane control. Sometimes you see both of these, Sudden Impact and Cheap Shot. I wouldn't worry about them. Not really that consistent. If you want to have consistent lane phase, Taste of Blood is the way to go. Eyeball Collection. Now you can go Treasure Hunter. You actually can go a lot of these ones down the bottom here. The reason being is you can go Ingenious, works really well with Everfrost. If you're building Everfrost, you can go Treasure Hunter to get you snowballing more off your first R usage. Personally, I stick to Ultimate Hunter because your kit revolves largely around your R cooldown. So I like to keep it very simple and basically go Ultimate Hunter no matter what if I'm going for the red tree. Now again, Inspiration Secondary. I'm a massive fan of DMATs on Ahri personally. The reason being is that it helps you with your wave cleared breakpoint. So if you actually put 2 of the DMATs onto the casters by level 7, you actually can one-shot the backline with 1 Q. If you have a certain amount of AP, we'll talk about this later. So I kind of like that with Ahri. And even if I don't choose to use my DMATs that way, sometimes I like it for aiding me in getting cannons and things like that. I know some Ahri players also like putting them on the melees as well to help with the melee breakpoint. I'm personally, it's a very flexible rune, and it is largely preference. I think Cosmic Insight, though, is very important because of how well she uses her flash, TP, and reducing that ultimate cooldown. All of that is amazing. She works really well with ability haste. All of these could also work as well. Even magical footwear here. These are all personal preference. Play around with what you like and what works well for your elo bracket. But I would personally start off with DMAT and Cosmic Insight if you want a stock standard rune page. Same thing here. You can also go secondary sorcery. A lot of Ahris like the sorcery because the mana flow helps with your mana in the early game. She can be quite mana intensive. We're starting to see a lot more Scorch on Ahri as well, typically with the first strike setup, which we'll touch on later on. But, you can't really go wrong with Transcendence on Ahri. Obviously, it's a bit more of a scaling choice. If you want more lane control, you want to go that Scorch. If you want more scaling, you want to go the Transcendence. She works very well with ability haste. You sometimes see Absolute Focus for the wave clear and Gathering for ultimate scaling. I typically don't bother with these. If I am going to go sorcery secondary, I will go Mana Flow and Scorch or Mana Flow and Transcendence, depending on how much scaling I want within my setup. Now, you will see this setup actually taken into a lot of Mage v Mage matchups. So if you see Ahri versus Syndra, Ahri versus Victor, Ahri versus Orianna, you will actually see kind of the bone plating overgrowth with Ahri secondary. It gives her a little bit more trading strength, allows her to kind of phase check some of those combos to kind of get into W range and stuff like that. So I'll actually show a VOD later on, I believe, with this setup. This is actually more of a new setup. You didn't usually see this back in the day. But it's actually kind of a new innovation in Mage v Mage matchups because she does kind of get outranged and outpoked. And Ahri does have typically a weak early lane. I personally don't go this setup all that often, but something you can play around with in those Mage v Mage matchups. Ahri, also very good with Ahri, especially into the lower range matchups. So if you're playing Ahri into, say, like a Kiana, a Fizz, Even at like Akali, a lot of lower range matchups, you can opt in for the Aerie because then you're less tied to, you know, landing all 3 abilities, and you can get in range to auto attack a lot. To proc those auto W's and just simple auto attack trades. So this can also really work well. I personally don't find myself going this all that often because I'm a big first strike abuser right now. But again, for the same reasons, this all works into those lower range matchups. Now there's 2 other options here. Now this has been my personal favorite. Chovy has actually been popularizing this one with the first strike. So typically he goes first strike, magical footwear, DMAT, cosmic insight with Manapho Scorch. Now the theory behind this setup is that Ahri doesn't have the strongest early lane. Right, Ahri nowadays is best played as more of like a scaling into mid-game spiking mage. Okay. And so what First Strike does is it obviously gives you a little bit more gold in the early game, helps you get to your key breakpoints, whether it be your Ludens, your Everforce, whatever it might be. But more importantly, I believe it actually out-damages Electrocute by level 9. Don't quote me on that one. Roughly around that time, it roughly out-damages Electrocute relatively early into the game, so it's a much better scaling rune. And because you're not typically winning lane anyway, it can be a great way of kind of ensuring, or at least bolstering up your mid-game power spike. Now, what you'll see though is you'll see Scorch paired with it. You might think, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, the reasoning is that it kind of bolsters up your early game, because if you go full scaling, if you went kind of first strike and then you went Transcendence with Manapho, you've basically got no early lane strength. So typically what I've been seeing from Chovy as well is balancing out that first strike with a Scorch. And this is actually the setup that I've been going the most. I think it's the most flexible, and I like the feeling of kind of scaling into the mid game with Ahri. If you feel as though you don't like that, you really like the early game strength with Electro Aerie, that's totally on you. Play around with all of them and see what feels good for you. Now, also you'll see Spellbook. People ask me all the time, why Spellbook, when should I take Spellbook, and how should I use it? The only matchups that I would take Spellbook are when you're versing ones where you really need cleanse. So if you're versing something like a Lissandra, sometimes even into Zoe if you really want to, TF, things like that, but specifically into Lissandra, Spellbook is really good, because then you can actually swap to cleanse, so you can use the TP in the early game to swap to cleanse. This is, I would say, more so a competitive rune, but yes, in solo queue, if I'm versing Lissandra, I will want to go for that Spellbook, because playing Ahri into a Lissandra without cleanse is an absolute pain in the ass. If you don't like Magical Footwear and you want to go for early Lucidity, which a lot of the high elo players do in those fast-paced games, you can also opt in for Stopwatch. Depends on what your preference is. Do you like to go early T2 boots, or do you not like to go early T2 boots? That really is preference as well. Moving on to builds. Again, a lot of people get confused about this stuff, so we're going to get into the details here. Seaport versus Dorans. If you want to play a fast-paced Ahri lane, Seaport is really good. Seaport, I would say, is quite good into those mage v mage matchups where there's a lot of heavy trading. Again, versing a Syndra, a Victor, and Ori, especially paired with that secondary bone plating. That's something you can opt in for. Also somewhat good in those mid-range matchups like Talia and things like that. I personally don't go Seaport all that often. I like the durability from the Doran, since Ahri is quite squishy. Sometimes you'll see the Ahris that start Seaport go straight into a Doran's for the durability. Again, I don't really recommend that. I personally don't really like delaying my Lost Chapter. I think Lost Chapter is such an important item for Ahri because of how well she uses ability haste and how much she needs the mana. Again, that's personal preference. So play around with the Seaport and Doran's, see what feels good for you. Typically on first base, you'll see a lot of people try to actually skip all of these items and go straight to Lucidity. The reason you'll see this is because it is a much earlier spiking setup. It gives you that immediate burst of ability haste, helps with your wave clear, helps with getting nice quality resets, it helps you attending skirmishes, all that good stuff. So typically you'll see that with people that like to go Everfrost and get shit done in the early game. Some Ahris really don't like to rush that because they don't want to skip Darkseal, because they're going to be involved in a lot of fights. They want to get that Darkseal stacking up in the early game. And then some Ahri players don't go the Darkseal, they don't rush the Lucidity, they won't even go boost with the Magical Footwear, and they'll try and stay in lane for 1300. These are all completely viable ways of playing your Ahri. What I recommend is trying all of these kind of strategies: the tier 2 boot rush, the lost chapter boot, the lost chapter rush, early basing for Dark Soul Amp2. Try them all based off how you like to navigate your matchups and see what feels good for you. Because remember, guys, when it comes to itemization, why it's so preferential is because the optimal setup might depend on how you like to play your Ahri, as well as what rank you're at and how the games play out on your particular server. When you watch Chovy and the games are very fast paced, he's probably more inclined to rush something like a Lucidity to get going and get shit done and have that early game versatility. If I'm playing in Gold and NA, I might actually not want to go that and actually just save straight up for my Lost Chapter because the games might be a little bit slower paced, right? So these are things that you need to play around with. Now, as for what boots you go for, if I'm going Ludens and I want to go for that one-shot style of Assassin Ahri, I will basically always go Sorks. If I'm going Everfrost, you can go Sorks. But typically I would find myself going Lucidity, and I'll find myself either going Lucidity or Mercs if I need it. Typically because you don't really need pen and you want to have that earlier spiking. One of the big advantages of Everfrost is that it is a cheaper mythic. Hence why you'll see Everfrost and Solo Queue in the high elo bracket, because they want to get shit done in the early game. It has a lot more 2v2 skirmish strength. So yeah, spiking in the early game, cheaper mythic, synergizes as well with a lot of ability haste. You're basically a stacking ability haste and getting a lot done and getting the ball rolling. So here you have kind of the three styles, right? Assassin one shot, kind of like a hybrid, bit of utility, earlier spiking, and then more 2v2 oriented, and then you have kind of this scaling Liandry's 2 to 3 item spiking mythic. Typically, if you're versing a lot of tanks and you feel as though you want to play more front-to-back team fights, that's where Liandry's comes into play. If you want to spike earlier, get shit done, take plenty of 2v2s, or you want a little bit more durability into a lot of lower range champions and assassins, you go Everfrost. If you feel like you're versing a lot of squishies and your soul AP, going Ludens with Sorks and playing with Electro-Ignite is a great way to kind of get shit done and be a very annoying assassin threat. We're going to talk later on a little bit more about these mythics in the guide and kind of when you would want to go each of them and how it influences your gameplay. But at a very surface level, like I said here, Assassin, good into squishies, Everfrost, good into low range comps when you need the durability and if you want to spike earlier, fast paced games. Liandry's when you're versing heavy tank compositions and you feel as though the game is going to be more oriented around mid to late game front to back team fights. Now, Roa is also a mythic. I'm not really going to be covering Roa today. I don't believe in Roa as an item on Ahri. Now, some people like Roa on Ahri into assassin matchups because it gives you a shit ton of durability, and you'll see Roa as something into like a Cosmic Drive second item because you get plenty of durability here. You just want to stack ability haste and movement speed off your second item. Typically, you also see it with the Lucidity as well because you don't get any ability haste from Roa. So yeah, you'll sometimes see Ahri VZ players, if they play Ahri into Z, they'll go Roa for the durability. I personally would much prefer one of these mythics. So, again, play around with it. I don't think it's an essential mythic for Ahri players. I think that's more for people that really want to specialize and maybe become a one-trick with Ahri. They might want to play around with that. Now for second item, Horizon Focus is very good on Ahri. Now the big kind of debate has been Shadow Flame versus Horizon Focus. Now, something you got to remember is that Shadow Flame gives 50 more HP, right? 50 more HP, but it actually doesn't give any ability haste. Whereas Horizon Focus gives ability haste, has less 50 HP, but it's actually more damage, and it's more damage. So typically what you'll actually see is, unless you're getting a lot of value from the passive in terms of the, in relation to shields, and dealing with those shields, you typically just want to go Everfrost straight into Horizon Focus because it gives you more damage. So this is the most common build path right now: Lucidity, Everfrost into Horizon Focus. You don't need the HP because you're already getting the HP from the Everfrost, and then you can proc the Horizon Focus passive with Everfrost because it procs off slows and immobilizes, right? So typically then what you would want to do is you would use your Everfrost, and then you would proc the Horizon Focus, and then you could dump your full combo onto the enemy and get a load of damage. Typically though, if you're going Ludens, I would actually prefer you probably go the Shadow Flame, purely because you just need probably that little bit of extra HP, but again, it is personal preference, and you have less ways to proc the Horizon Focus. So they're typically the two most common mythics after this one. If you are going Liandry's. I would again prefer Shadow Flame. Yeah, Shadow Flame probably, or maybe even Banshees for a little bit of durability. But again, you're not really going to get much value from Horizon Focus without the Everfrost passive. Cosmic Drive isn't really as good anymore because it doesn't give any HP. Typically, back in the day when Cosmic Drive gave HP, I would love to go Liandry's into Cosmic, but I don't really think that's viable anymore. I think you'd only want to build Cosmic Drive with Roa. That's the only situation which I'd build Cosmic. For me right now, I'm typically going, yeah, Ludens, Shadow Flame, Everfrost, Horizon Focus, Liandry, Shadow Flame, and then mix in, Void Staff, Banshee, Zhonya's, Deathcap, however you see fit. But typically, that's the build path right there. If you have any questions about items, I'll be happy to answer them in the comment section below. Summoners, keep it very simple, TP and Ignite. Now, I am a massive fan of TP on Ahri, and the reason being is because it gives you that flexibility heading into the mid game. I feel like Ahri has so many she's so versatile. There's so many ways you can play fights. I love the ability to come in late or TP in creative flank windows or whatever. I just love that TP aspect for mid game. Also, Ahri has a very weak early lane, so having TP allows me to keep my farm up in the early lane, especially into those harder matchups. If you are going Electrocute and you want to play for the Ludens setup and you're versing a very squishy team composition, Ignite can be really good with Ludens, Electrocute, and Ignite. Gives you a great triple threat synergy there to burst targets. Typically, I'd only go Ignite in matchups where they are relatively easy to minimize and I don't need that TP to come back for a tempo reset or something like that. So now we're going to be getting into some trading tips, getting into the details here. The first one, classic basic trading pattern you'll see into basically any lower range matchups is auto W auto to proc that Electrocute. Sometimes even auto W and then Q, and utilizing that W movement speed to get a nice quality Q. So typically what you're aiming for is just to proc that Electrocute if you are going Electrocute, or proc that First Strike. So typically, yeah, again, procking that Electrocute either with auto, W auto, or auto, W Q. As you can see here in these lower range matchups, look at that, auto, W, auto, Q. So typically you also want to play around with utilizing the W movement speed to avoid skill shots. Here's a little clip from someone in the MLA. LeBlanc goes in with the W into E, and then he uses the W movement speed to avoid the chain. So that's actually something you really need to play around with. So I really want to get into specifics of what makes a good Q and a bad Q. Getting very competent with your Q usage is the key to success with the lane phase with Ahri. So a good Q is when you're really clipping them with the Q1, Q2, like that. See that? So you see how I jammed him up in the corner here, and I didn't rush my Q. A lot of Ahris here in this sort of situation would rush their Q. They'll just spam the Q right now. But I know that if I walk up and close the gap, they're going to be a little bit closer, makes them panic, and then I'm able to get that Q1, Q2 just like that. What you're aiming for is you're aiming so that the Q just is at that perfect range where it goes back and forth very, very quickly so they don't have time to dodge it. Here's another good Q here. Look at that, beautiful. That is a good Q, getting that clip at the end. And this requires good quality testing. If I step too far forward and I'm too close to the enemy, and the gap between the Q reaches there and there, they can easily sidestep the back half of that Q. So typically what you want to do is you want to stay, at that tip of the Q range, so you get that insta Q1, Q2. This is an okay Q. Not an amazing one. I had the right idea. I was trying to reposition the Q with the W movement speed. This is what a bad Q looks like. So let's really look at this one. This is a bad Q here. So it's a little bit too linear. It's not even really in range. It's not timed with the last hit. Really, really not good. And if you find yourself doing a lot of Qs like this, where it's not timed with the last hit, you're not overwhelming their mental stack by getting in range and threatening the auto W with the movement speed, you're not clipping them with the Q1, QT, then you need to do some investigation and really laser focus on it. Here's another terrible Q. Way too linear, not even timed with the last hit, not even really in range properly. And here is a vomit-worthy Q. I want to vomit all over my keyboard. Way too linear. And let's look at this. She knows I'm looking. He's not even looking to posture up right now. He completely baits it out. It's not even remotely close. Again, you guys need to really pay attention to these Qs. Even though it sounds basic, when I do a lot of Ahri coaching in my Midnight Academy program, people will go through the lane phase. We'll get into and they'll be like, oh yeah, I've got mid-game problems. Yeah, you have mid-game problems, but dude, if you're missing, 40% of your Qs in lane, the mid-game doesn't matter because your lane phase is you know, you set the game in this alternate trajectory where you're in an unfortunate situation. So charm usage, you know, okay, so here getting into the details, what you typically want to get into the habit of doing is holding the charm to overwhelm the enemy mental stack. So here you'll see the RE player walk up quite aggressively, you know, holds the charm, overwhelms the enemy mental stack, then uses the charm. Because if the RE player walks up and just uses it instantly, it's very easy for the enemy to kind of avoid it. So patience is key with your charm usage. Don't be afraid of holding it, you know, milking it, overwhelming their mental stack, and then casting the charm. Never underestimate the simple threat of holding the E and holding the charm. So let's continue on, guys. So to ensure you guys understand the significance of these lane tips, I'm actually just going to go through an early lane phase of Chovy playing Ahri into Cassiopeia. I really want to emphasize Chovy as a player because I feel like he is probably one of the best Ahri players in the entire world, and he has complete mastery over Ahri trading patterns, and there's a lot we can learn from him. So let's go over the first early lane here and see him execute a lot of these lane tips we just covered before. So it starts off with a W auto trade. One thing you'll see when you watch really good Ahri players is that they focus a lot on getting max value from this W, especially at the early levels 1 to 4. I would say in the early lane, you want to be directing most of your attention on W, either to gap close, or look for auto W autos, or even avoid skill shots. And then later on, as the lane goes on, the lanes become more centered around the Q. Holding the wave neutral. We'll talk about how to approach the differing lane matchups in a moment. We're going to go through all the different types of lanes that you will face. Utilizing W to get in range there. Look at that beautiful creative trade there. You see him also proc that Scorch. Making sure he's proccing it as often as he possibly can. Making sure you're getting comfortable with utilizing that W movement speed to get in range is really nice. Trying to get that level 2. Tries to bait out the Q, but ends up getting nailed by it. Looks for a little short trade here to proc that Electro. So let's take a look at this short trade here. So walks up, gets nailed by the Q, then walks up, goes for a Q, tries to reposition, ends up just proccing the Electrocute there, looking for a bit of a heavy trade. Beautiful sidestep there, and now look at that Q right there. Baits out the Q. Look at that, pretends he's going to walk up, baits out that Q, doesn't even bother about going for that minion. Literally gives up the minion to go for the trade. Trading more important than minions in this situation, given it's such a heavy trading matchup. And then is able to land both that Q1, Q2. That is a perfectly spaced and ranged Q right there. Very, very nice. And then W, disengaging, utilizing the movement speed to prevent Cassio from continuing to chase. Now he's got Cassio in a very good position here. So very good spacing there, very good patience with abilities. Baits out the Q. Walks up aggressively, has Charm available right now, just zoning, not rushing his abilities, just chilling. Looks like Cassio's likely going to reset, Cassio resets. Chovy stays in lane, he's actually got quite a lot of gold, but he has TP, so he's probably maybe saving for a Lucidity. Potentially see Chovy go for a lot of Lucidity boot rush. Sometimes you'll see him rush Lost Chapter, but not as much nowadays. Wave's in a very good position. Looks like his team's pincering. Catches the wave under tower. You'll see Chovy do this a lot where he stays in lane. He never wants to be the first one to base it out of his lane opponent. Like, he always wants to come back with the superior amount of gold over the enemy to have a better quality first base. So bases. Surely he's going to be rushing Lucidity. We'll see what he buys here. Comes back. Yep, Lucidity and a refill. Beautiful. Now look at these trading patterns. Walks up, tries to bait out the Q, auto W Q. Now look at this trade. Absolutely falls textbook what we're talking about before. Walks up, dodges the Q, auto W Q. And now look at that Q. Q1, Q2. Instantly perfect range. That is an ideal trade. If you guys can look to replicate these sorts of Qs, where it's perfectly on the tip, utilizing the movement speed to get in range to go for that as well, look at that. Beautiful. Very, very nice. Postures up aggressively. Notice how he walks up and he doesn't even use his charm. He's just utilizing the threat of the charm. Baits out that W from the Cassio. The Cassio is probably panicking. Walks up, pretends to use abilities, doesn't use abilities whatsoever, overwhelming the enemy's mental stack. Not rushing abilities, still holding the Q, knowing that is pretty low value Q there. Couldn't really get in range. Q's the wave. Tries to spot out the Cassio. Looks like Cassius goes for another reset. Maybe you'll try and deny the farm. Can't quite deny that cannon. Got a beautiful ward on that top side. Looks like he's playing for lane control here, playing for shove. Bit of an interesting Q there.
Time is money, friend.
Another auto WQ there, procs that electrocute. Notice how he hasn't used charm a single time. He's holding charm. The threat of the charm itself is creating space and preventing Cassio from walking into him. Look at that again. Look at these trading patterns, guys. Utilizing the W movement speed to get in range and get that beautiful clip on the end. The perfectly spaced Q1, Q2 there. Auto baits out the W movement speed reposition. Still holding charm. Still holding charm. Hasn't used charm a single time yet. Still holding charm. Look at that patience with charm, guys. Remember, if the enemy knows you have charm, that changes the way they trade onto you. They can't just blindly chase you. Cassio's getting very low. Still holding abilities, utilizing the threat of the abilities themselves. Yeah, goes on that top side. Looks like he's hyper aware of that, pings that one out. Let's go a little bit further here. Just going to cover the early lane. Peels to disengage with that charm. That's the first charm we've actually seen him use. And it looks like he's actually saving for a straight lost chapter here. Burns the flash with the Cassio. Doesn't want to overcommit, knowing that he is in the area. Again, very patient with charm usage. Pretty straightforward. So what you can take away here, guys, notice it's very patient laning, right? He's not really rushing charms. He's really utilizing his W to space and land that Q1, Q2. And look at this, very slow, conservative, 76 CS by David Azerti. This is what a successful lane phase looks like with Ahri. So now that we've already introduced kind of the laning basics in relation to training, what I want to do is now talk kind of big picture in terms of kind of the strategy that you're going to employ in your lane phase. So there's actually three kind of, I guess if you simplify it, three types of lanes that you're going to face. There's going to be low range melee matchups, there's going to be more kind of mid-range matchups, and then there's going to be high range matchups. So we're going to go through a laning phase of each of them, just to kind of get across a baseline strategy for each and every one of them. Before we dive into that, I just want to kind of introduce something holistically that kind of helped me in my Ahri journey as well. I like to kind of visualize Ahri's, I guess, entire game in three phases. There is kind of the levels 1 to 6, and the way you navigate this 1 to 6 depends on a few things. Number one, your style and how you like to navigate, your Ahri, whether it's fast and aggressive, whether it be more focused on scaling. There's also kind of the matchup specifics detailed into that matchup, and also kind of server differences and all that stuff in here. So sometimes it's going to be neutralizing. Sometimes you're actually going to play to win and dominate your opponent. Sometimes you're just going to be slowly losing, right? So typically we have 1 to 6 here, and this is kind of what we're going to cover in a moment. Post 6, around level 6, level 7, especially level 7 when you hit kind of your wave play breakpoint, especially if you go for DMATs, DMATs on the casters, you can typically start to exert a little bit of pressure, and especially now that you get your ultimate, you kind of come online as a champion in terms of your skirmishing. Like your skirmishing potential rises significantly. This is where 2v2s become a bit more attractive. So typically you'll see a lot of Ahris at this stage, level 7, around level 7.
Take the fast lane to a life less ordinary at Land Rover Sarasota. For limited time only, trade up to the world's most adventurous performance models. Choose from over 30 brand new vehicles in stock now. Plus, receive up to $4,000 over book value for your trade. These offers end soon. Take the fast lane and trade up to elevated luxury today at Land Rover Sarasota on Clark Road, west of I-75. Online at LandRoverSarasota.com.
Still recharging.
I'm visiting another door. How you feeling about that?
Feeling sad about going home, Bo?
Baker. We're making entry from the
I need to get
from the
closer.
east side. I'm pressing the main.
I'm out of range. I'm still recharging. That spell isn't That's still recharging. I can't use that yet. That spell isn't I can't cast it. It's still recharging.
God damn it! The shooter has an angle on that officer. We need to get up there. I don't know where he's at. The glass is blocking him.
I can't loot that.
And it's really fun to see how people either rise to the challenge or stumble, and it's a very interesting way to play the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Right here. Oh, go ahead, Willie. I'm sorry. My bad.
You probably don't even feel bad about fishing. So like, if I'm fishing, at least I can't die or anything.
Oh, we've seen
happy.
people
You
die.
might be surprised.
We've seen. So they're fishing, but the thing is, they're fishing in areas that are outside their level range in order to get to the good crate boxes that they need to roll the items that are upgrades for them. So we were seeing like level 22s fishing in Teneris next to the pirates. And
right. Okay, maybe that isn't so safe then.
I think Keksek actually died a few times while fishing.
Fishing apparently then is very dangerous. I take it back. Stick to something safe. Go and, I don't know, pick flowers. Here we go. Maybe that's dangerous too.
Except, oh my goodness, I don't know if you've been keeping up, Willie, at all with Oppie's journey here, but while he was level 32, he was darting around as a mage in Burning Steps trying to get Fire Bloom for oil ventilation. So he is repeatedly trying to land like Frost Novas on a level 50 or on like a level 48 to 52, magma elemental or something.
Yeah.
Just repeatedly getting resists just to get one Fire Bloom node.
Well,
Those oil immolations.
I like that.
They're so good. I mean, we use them in Old War. Like they're great. They're free. They not off the GCD. It's totally worth.
Yeah, right now we've pulled up.
Per target is insane.
We've pulled up. I'm flipping through some streams just to see who's doing what right now. Looks like Ompy's doing pre-game strats with his team in Discord, so he's got his muted audio on stream, running around on the mage. Here we can see Cargo's getting some last-minute blood shards for today. This is one of the benefits of playing Horde in these dungeon runs. You get blood shard buffs for just about every dungeon circuit that you're going to be doing. So I'm not sure how much benefit blood shards are going to be, considering that this is the first circuit people are going to have mounts for the open world movement portion.
I mean, that move speed is really nice, and as Horde, you have access to the flight path, so you can go from wherever to turn it in, and then have the move speed for RFD to zoom through RFD super fast.
I think it's like 10 stats for 30 minutes, isn't it? Or 10 agility or whatever for 30 minutes, right?
Well, at 30% move speed is like a lot. I think.
Well, I think
it only lasts 5 minutes, right?
That's
Yeah,
fine.
the move speed one's only a 5-minute buff, so it's beneficial, but it's not. I mean, I guess Jordy, you are the speed running expert in the
30% is an incredibly high amount of moves. Like people use it in max speedruns back in the day. Like you would free summon an entire raid. Everybody would
That spell is
get the move speed buff, accept the summon, and then run into max. And like
Not still recharging.
and in this scenario, they have to take the flight path anyways to Camp Tarajo to go to RFD, right? So you're right there. You just right click the thing and boom.
So this is actually an interesting question because I know we normally have Sarth on the call, who's like a very good representative of the speedrunning community in Classic WoW, right? But we also have Jordy, which is like a B tier representative of the speedrunning.
Not wrong.
Straight into the bus.
No, I'm just kidding. Just please still take me through GDKPs with you. I would appreciate it. But as someone who has partaken in the overarching speedrunning community of Endgame World of Warcraft, Jordy, and then you also play hardcore, right? You've kept up to speed with the hardcore All Stars events. Are there similarities that you see between these two, or is it just completely two different ball games? Right? We have trash requirements, right? We have.
It's totally similar. I think that the one thing that I've really enjoyed and the reason I like speedrunning is that the way that you normally do an instance, a little bit less so nowadays, but in vanilla especially, the way that you normally do an instance is totally different than the way that you speedrun an instance because you're pulling trash into bosses, you're doing triple, quadruple pulls, you're pushing your character to the absolute limit, and that's exactly what they're doing here to the nth degree, and it's really, really fun to see like what you can get away with. I mean, stuff like, in Vanilla Nax, like getting the Thaddeus buff and taking it into Saffron so that you can kill her in 30 seconds was like so cool, and just stuff like that you can push this game to, and it's incredible how much the game flexes like to a different place when you are pushing it at these levels, and how deep it can actually be. We're such nerds, and you would have never thought back in the day that it's possible to do this, and I just love it.
Yeah. Do you have any base that evenly applied? It applies everywhere, right? What are the core concepts of going fast in a dungeon? Whether it's a raid or a dungeon, is it like, you were just saying move speed's huge, right? Which is understandable. It makes sense. But I think the difference between someone like me who casually runs dungeons and someone like you who tries to push the limits is, yeah, it's a 5-minute 30% move speed buff, but you'll do a lot more with that 5 minutes than I could, right?
Yeah, well, you have to think like, and a lot of time you'll do this. You'll have a cleared instance, and then you'll apply a move speed buff, and then you'll run through the instance, and you'll time the difference between a normal run and what the move speed gave you, and like that's just time you save for next to nothing. And so there's move speed, there's stamina, because dying is the absolute worst time loss, especially in vanilla when there's world buffs and stuff. There is a lot of different ways that you can add time, like cleaving. You almost always want to be cleaving something. You want to do as little CC as possible because you want everything to be dying at the same time. You know what I mean? Cleave is always more damage than single target. In vanilla, you can drink walk. That's a huge thing that you can't really do in Wrath these days. And so speedrunning is a lot more interesting in vanilla, I think, because of that. I don't know what else is. I think that probably covers a lot of it.
So go fast, press buttons on multiple enemies seems to be the gist.
And prioritize not dying. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, in hardcore, that's the absolute most critical thing. But in speedrunning, that also is really important.
And don't forget, Jordy, if we get real servers one of these days, Season 2 could just be speedrunning all of our favorite raids in Classic WoW, only if you die, you're not just losing your world buffs.
Yeah.
A lot more than that.
It's so great. Hardcore, when you get a world buff, you're like, okay, well, I don't have to risk losing this because I have much bigger problems if I lose this buff than the buff gone. So it's so nice to know that we're gonna get full value.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Willie, have you ever dabbled your foot in the speedrunning door, or is it are you more of the play it safe and just be a boomer like me?
Yeah. No, the thing I've got, as far as some kind of competitive way to go through raids, we did literally the opposite of speedruns. We tried to do execution runs during TBC.
Execution's a good metric.
Like I think we got a world second or a world first in tier 5 or tier 6 where we had about 1 death in the raid.
Oh wow, okay.
But yeah, getting 0 deaths is legitimately really difficult. It would be in Nax as well. I think we went for execution runs during Nax in vanilla, and yeah, we had like 1 or 2 deaths, and that was near world first.
Yeah, it's actually insane.
I mean, we try and go fast in the raid, obviously, and see how much we can push stuff, dropping healers, just the usual kind of things you do when you're speedrunning. But it's more like just playing cleanly rather than doing ridiculous stuff and pushing the limits.
Yeah, I think those have been the sentiments of the guilds that I've played with majority of my time spent in Classic is more so along the lines of, hey, let's just do better next week, and by doing better, we'll go faster than we did the week prior, right? Just becoming more prepared and executing in a better way.
Yeah, I mean, last reset we're trying to drop down, I think it's 4 healers for pretty much every fight, apart from a few fights which, you know, Hodir and so on, you don't really need that many healers anyway, but yeah, it's just trying to do better than last week, I guess. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm a big fan. Speaking though of execution in hardcore raiding, we had some interesting. This is for a general update for the hardcore community. There goes your camera, by the way, Willie. I think the batteries may have died. But
That's fast. All right, you're back.
No, yeah, you're okay. You're okay. So the execution portion of these hardcore raids is a really big factor. Hardcore Elite from NA and Mortal Elite from EU both attempted full clear BWL, which would have been, it was the first time NA's done it, and it would be the first time EU cleared it, but just in the last 7 days, and it was terrifying to watch. It's one of those things where it's just like, these runs, and including today's speedrunning dungeons, right? You're gonna see teams go into Uldaman. When it's cleared, and it's cleared fast, and it's cleared clean, it's easy to look at it and just be like, well, that looks easy. They made it really easy. Make it harder next time, guys, right? But sometimes you get a little bit of a sobering moment of the quote unquote it's easy until it's not. Or it's easy until you do it, right? Is another way to look at it, where you just die. And we saw a similar situation. You know, NA went in and cleared BWL, and there was a lot of people saying like, "Oh, easy money, go AQ next," right? And then EU goes in and they lose 5 people on Fire Mom, and they had to call the raid because they lost the hunters. They lost all their trank shots. They couldn't even do Chromag if they wanted to. It's terrifying. Hardcore raiding is insane. All it takes is 1 pixel of positioning wrong, and your whole raid's done. Which is something we might end up seeing one day if Blizzard ends up bringing out these hardcore servers. It would be insanity to watch these things. And the same goes for today. We're gonna see people. I've heard through the rumor mill that we will be seeing teams single pull Scarlet Monastery Cathedral today. I can't wait. Oh my gosh. Which is, you know, if the mobs catch you, you die. Like, if you get hit once, you're getting hit by like 35 mobs. Maybe even more than that. Which is absolutely insane. But I'm gonna switch over, since we lost the Willy cam, we can do this. Yeah, there we go. We can switch over. We can watch some preparation. Let's see. Is Chippo live? Oh, we got Chippo. This is the Vidir enjoyers, guys.
Going through their their lovely autobiographer add-on. Getting all verified, showing all the zones they've been in, if they've ever been grouped in the zones.
Yes,
all the
was
items
that what you
they've-
were gonna ask,
they've literally
Jordy?
ever gotten.
Yeah, what is it?
So
oh, go ahead, only you can explain.
Autobiographer is basically the budget statistics for WoW in the form of an add-on. But yeah, we've actually had the developer of this add-on join the HCAS Discord, having seen the number of downloads absolutely blow up. So they've been even running pushing new updates specifically for our community. Like you can see on this tab, Chippo has been looking at that vendor thing is completely new, so we can see what items people have actually gotten from a vendor or elsewhere. Kind of making sure that that other tab is specifically for quest items, trading and mail.
And you can like invite people in, so you have like a group biographer, or how does that?
No, so it's per player. So it's basically your player statistics, but it counts everything from items you've acquired to jumps made, every single spell cast, including fish. So you can count how many times you've clicked your fishing button. It tracks all experience gains from every source. Your time spent AFK, in dungeons, in groups, in what zones, how many times you've killed a boss or a mob, when the first time you killed a mob was, or when the first time you got a unique item was.
That is no joke.
It's an insane number of statistics. Obviously, we only need a certain number of statistical data points if we need to go back and verify. If we saw that Unchained was using, I don't know, some epic weapon, a Staff of Jordan, let's say, I'd be interested in figuring out through this add-on, as well as through some other data like video or something, where exactly that came from.
Yeah, and the purpose of the teams required to use this add-on and a few other add-ons, and also recording a few parts of their runs, is so that we can 100% verify that none of the teams today are cheating. None of these teams are, dying randomly and just saying they never did. Things like that. Things of that nature. We have many, 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 many ways to figure out what's been going on. Looks like we got the Willy cam back, which is great.
Oh, yeah, look at the nerf to the beard. It's like 50% less relevant.
Yeah,
I don't know what the other camera does, but it's great. I just need a proper
angle.
cable for it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie though. Me and Jordy have decent backgrounds. Only just moved, so Only's working on the stream room at this point. But I think the chat was saying earlier, Willy, that your wallpaper is actually taking the cake for the best looking background of all time.
It is. I don't know. It's probably been there since like the war or something. I don't know how old that is. I actually did have a green screen which I was trying to get work, but this room is like impossible to fit a green screen in.
Yeah, but the lighting is terrible for green screens.
Yeah, it's really bad. I'll fix it eventually, but until then, you get the wonderful view here.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have some clips from the teams. I don't have too many. If your team is playing and you're listening to the broadcast and you had something you wanted us to highlight, you can let us know. But for instance, I've got here a nice little Graze for Days death clip to watch. Is level 41.
Ooh, tragic.
I mean, I wish I could say this, or I didn't. I wish I didn't. I couldn't say this, but I'm getting used to watching Grace for Days death clips.
There we go. I've acquired a plant for the background.
Oh, perfect! Thank you for the great plant, Only. We're watching Grace for Days. Let's see what happens here. Only Black Smoke is in the call with him, by the way.
Yeah, let's all ignore that fact and just recognize that I obviously didn't kill Grace.
How much were they talking?
I mean, it was more just like, yeah, it sucks you died and you've got limited time, but if you're going to prioritize something,
look at the
it's
smile.
not just the one mob, isn't it?
Like, surely not.
It's just the one mob.
I'm like waiting for a rogue to appear. Okay, resist Warstorm, and oh wow.
Oh my god. Just
what did he get crit for?
So he got executed.
I was ready for a rogue to appear or something.
Yeah, so these Wastewander Assassins are one of the 28 mobs in the game that can execute you.
And it's orange.
Yeah. And the War Stomp gets resisted, so he can't get the heal off, and the execute comes out.
Yeah, this is like the Graze for Days special. War Stomping when he hits 10% health. Going into the regrowth.
I'm out of range.
I mean, it missed him twice in there too, so it was like.
Was he questing here? What was he doing killing these?
he was on RXP. RXP tells you to go here and do one quest.
To get the pouches. No, the arrow is pointing 1,000 yards to the left, which is the lower level assassins to kill.
Oh, was he just killing the wrong mob?
Yeah, this arrow is pointing to go this way.
Oh, yeah.
Because you go to the one on the north of this road.
Because those are orange.
That was only for the pouch and not even a needed quest mob.
Yeah, you kill bandits and thieves. You don't kill assassins. Great.
I think you were too entertaining. He got distracted.
That's true. Well, I felt so bad for him because he kept getting kicked out of his own team's Discord because they were talking about dungeon strats and he was live. So I was like, I'll go hang out with Graze. Less than 2 minutes later, he's dead. I felt so bad.
Job done.
Yeah, he had been left alone for like 3 hours. I was just like, God, Graze, like.
So this is kind of what I was saying, though, right? This is what I was saying is like, Graze is the druid on NoCC. They're in the 3rd place, right? So they had to call in their backup player Lesamos, the mage. So they're going to be swapping mage for druid on their runs today. But this is how easy it is for these top teams, you guys, to get knocked out of the tournament or down a few pegs in general if just one too many problems arise, right? You can find yourself falling down this leaderboard pretty quick. I don't know. By the way, in season 2, I would absolutely love to see deaths along the while you're leveling affect your points somehow.
Sure, we can make that work.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I would love to see like people that are doing the whirlwind axe, right? Really risking it to get, because if you lose points, if you die in the interim between the dungeon runs, that would be awesome.
We can totally
because it does feel like the team that sweats the hardest would be naturally best positioned, because if you fuck up, you just re-level, right? And so if there's a point lost, then it's like, okay, I have to play smart and hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or what if you could accrue points for doing like elite quests solo as well? Like, so every elite quest that your team completes gets you like 1 point for your team. Every death like subtracts like 10 points from your team, and like there's a little bit of risk reward going on between the dungeon runs. That'd be kind of fun.
Well, so that's something.
With MDI, when you die in MDI, what you get? Yeah, minus time, don't you?
That's true. That's true. We do time or a point deduction for if you die in a dungeon, but nothing outside of dungeons. But that does remind me, like, one thing that, of course, I'm dreaming big and way too far out into the future through all of this. I was just shocked that we had even 4 teams sign up for the World Tour. But one idea that you kind of, Winky, have inspired me to think about for the future of HCS is just doing even an individual ladder, kind of like the whole Diablo 2 ladder.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Hardcore, where like you can just get points, track through an add-on, track through a website, whatever, of just anything and everything you do, whether it's a particularly fast leveling pace, being able to do elite quests, like you said, clearing dungeons, whatever you want. Just getting high gold on your own.
Just be the Zorant out.
Exactly. There we go.
This is something we've been seeing quite a bit. This is
I'm out of range.
It's these teams are just farming chests, right? To get cloth at a higher level than mobs that they can kill, things like that, right? And this is, I believe this is Angry Noob. I can't remember which team they're on. It's wild.
I don't remember.
But it's interesting. They're just farming chests, right? Like, you gotta farm chests nonstop, and all of these teams are doing this. There was a team that got really far ahead. I think it was a Vidir Enjoyers actually in Circuit 2, because they found a safe chest in Desolace that they could get to with no mobs, and they could consistently farm. What was it, Mage Weed? Out of the one chest spawn. and they used it to make sappers, and they had a ton of sappers.
I think it was 2
I
chest
need to get
spawns. They were
closer.
in the Kolkar villages.
Yes.
Like those 2 centaur camps where you have to choose one side and just kill the other mercilessly. Yeah, they would just like go back and forth between these 2 camps, getting a single chest spawn.
Yeah,
And
because
so-
they're level 30. Oh, here we go. There's Verothin's ghost.
Outside of the dungeon, it's all there's a widowmaker. That's all it's all solo, right? Like you can't like party up
Widowmaker.
to get a chest, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't party up. Everything's solo self-found in between the dungeons. Boom! Short sword of vengeance. Angry newts, full stack in the tune. Look at this guy.
Look at that angry little note.
Yeah, backdrops or this. There's your team. Backdrops or this.
Oh my god. I mean, this is kind of the opposite story that we're seeing with what is going on
Executioner's
here?
Cleaver.
That's the same chest as last time. Oh my
He's
god.
stacked, dude. Absolutely stacked out of chest farming in a higher level. And a Shara at level 43.
I know.
Look at this.
Jesus.
That is actually such a good roll. Wow.
Oh yeah. These are the things that these teams. So we'll be watching backdrops or this today, you guys. We'll be checking in on this Executioner's Cleaver, see how it helps them out on their team.
Yeah,
I'm being
because on one
told.
side you've got Grays dying, on the other you've got these axes and other blues going out onto these teams who are really looking to make their come up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm being told in chat that there's rumors that Ompy's team is going to be one pulling not only Calf, SM Calf, but they're gonna one pull RFD.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, we are going to be getting in. The teams will start speedrunning in 14 minutes, 13 minutes now. So as soon as that clock kicks over to 9 a.m. for us on the west.
Terra. There
Yeah,
we go.
exactly. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, this one's our mother plant. We're trying to break it up a little bit and put it in some different pots all over the house, though.
Commercial?
Absolutely. All right, cool. Let's get into casting some stuff. Do you guys want to watch RFD or Scarlet Monastery first? Because we're gonna have to split our time here between these runs. And from what I'm hearing, they're gonna be people doing one polls of both RFD and Scarlet Monastery. I think I'd like to
Do a quick poll.
Do a quick poll, a 1 minute poll.
Or give me mod and I can.
Yeah, I'll give you mod.
Yeah, give me mod and I'll ban everybody.
Don't ban everybody. There you go. You guys are both mods now. Willie, you want to be a mod?
Oh god, I don't know what the buttons do. Like I don't want to press
either,
anything wrong.
I'm realizing.
I'm good.
realizing.
Slash
Yeah.
poll.
Look, I'll just do /ban all and.
I'd like to give a huge shout out to my boy Taxic89 in the chat. Just resubbed for 62 months, you guys. That's 5 years and 2 months. What a giga Chad human being.
That's an OG.
Yeah, also best friend
Right.
IRL, so he has to do that. I buy him coffee every month to pay for his sub.
And I think that are we ready for the?
Oh, we're going. Yeah, I think we're ready. Do you want to do the countdown? For
let's
team
have
captains?
let's have one of our guests do the countdown. Just a quick T-10 if either of you would, Shorty or Willie.
Willie, send it.
Okay, so this will be Circuit 3. We'll be getting underway in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they're off.
There we go. We're going. It looks like the poll is overwhelmingly Scarlet Monastery, by the way.
Already.
So
Well,
let's
yeah, I mean,
go
we
check out the Vidir Enjoyers real quick.
RFD's got some people.
I will keep an eye on our teams in RFD. I mean, Ompy's team is at RFD. They said that they're one pulling RFD somehow. I don't know how you do that.
I don't know how they do that. I know that I'm watching Vidir Enjoyers. They are also rumored to be a one pulling Scarlet Monastery. I don't know if they're going to be going to Armory first. It looks like they are.
Yeah. I mean,
this is actually interesting too. I think most teams should be going Armory first, just due to the level disparity, right? They want to try and get min-max their XP before they go into the dungeons here.
Now for RFD, what are the specific track requirements? Because I remember you saying that there was some fudginess there that they could.
Yeah. So for trash requirements, it's a funny thing in RFD where you can go either left or right at the beginning. So because there is that option, we elected basically to have the mobs in either of those directions until you kind of get to a point where you could reasonably skip to that route elsewhere in the dungeon. They don't count. So right up at the start, you basically have to make a decision: are we going to run through these mobs, find an evade spot, use an invis pod cooldown, just try and press W and just hack and slash our way through all of it as quickly as we can.
We're already seeing this, by the way. This is the Vidir Enjoyers. This is the team that I was saying doesn't use a tank. They just pull big, drop target dummies, right?
Yeah, that was clean. They like barely moved their health bars.
Oh yeah, they are fast, and usually the mobs are dead before the target dummy is. Like, it is insane what these people are doing.
Oh yeah.
It looks like that runner actually just pulled 2 additional mobs, which is probably not what they were planning for. They probably wanted to add those 2 mobs into another bigger pull. But as you can see here on these are our trash requirements. You guys will see it on their screen throughout these runs. This is a weak aura. So the only requirement for Armory is Herod and kill 47 Scarlet people.
Gotcha.
That's about it.
It looks like Scenic Exorcist is starting on the right side of RFD, so maybe the run up the mountain, you can abuse the 1 pull there? Or you could maybe... Isn't there a jump from this spot, too, that you can make?
So what they've done is they found some pretty interesting ways to basically jump up layers of the mountain cake, if you will. Yeah, really interesting points. So instead of running all the way around that spiral, what we're going to see out of this team, and I think several other teams, is finding creative jump points where they can skip half of the undead, basically. The number of undeads that you have to kill is pretty darn low compared to how many you could have to kill if you're just running around in that circle.
But all the bosses are required, so
yes.
Even so,
yes. Except for the escort quest.
Okay.
Yes. So right here we've got Mud Maniac of the Ompi variety. See you next circus out here. These guys are our #1 team in the entire league right now. So we will be watching them go insane in these runs. But I want to respect the Scarlet Monastery vote in the chat.
Sorry. I got all excited.
No, it's okay.
My bad.
Yeah, I was like, when's the 1 pull start? Like, I want to see it.
I know.
Cathedral, I think, is where we're going to see. Look at how big this pull is.
I know. So
10 mobs.
This is terrifying.
What I heard they were trying to do was basically, and you can see Gigapole, the owl pet, dead.
Doing?
So they decided to use Eyes of the Beast to make these massive pulls.
Yep.
Bring everything to themselves. God, I would hate to be Raizuko their priest right now. I would.
Yo, I'm getting told that No CC just did a Gigapole and Dustbone almost just died. This is what's coming in chat. Chat, by the way, if you're watching any of the other POVs, you can all go to hardcoreallstars.com. You can see everybody who's streaming today on the main page. Just click the event panel. You can flip through all of the teams. You can follow along with your favorite team. If there's anything going on the other streams that we aren't casting here on the main channel, feel free to jump into the chat and let us know what's going on. Yes, Vidir literally just almost 1 pulled Armory. They're at Herod. You're kidding me.
That was, I think it was 2 pulls, or maybe 3.
Yeah, it was about 2. Yeah, they went past the courtyard and then.
This is insanity. You guys, it started at 12 server, and we started them a little late. We started them at like 12:01. It is 12:04, and they're at
Might be a short day.
This is a 3-minute or Armory run.
Yeah, so these teams looking to do some big armories, big cathedrals, and by big I mean fast. We are looking at 3-4 minute dungeon runs. This is going to be absolute insanity. But then meanwhile, on the other side of the coin, we've got RFD Uldaman, 2 pretty long, windy dungeons. It's not exactly stopping some of these teams though from looking at every skip possible still. So it should be.
This is insanity. Look at this.
What Herod down.
Yeah.
Ravager.
Fuck yeah.
Yo, Ravager would be big for future polls. You get some AOE.
For this group especially, because all they
used
do
it
is
Mount
they lead,
Hydro,
right?
didn't you? I remember.
Oh, shout outs to Crix Vibes in the chat. Welcome back, Crix. You love to see it. Let's go.
Can we get some W's in the chat for
Can we
our
get
boy
some
Greg?
W's in the chat for
I need
Crix?
to get closer.
All right, armory done.
Armory?
Yeah, Armory done.
Done.
EG, go next.
So they're going to go to Cath. I kind of want to lock in and watch the Cath run too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
The
Cath is getting, like,
RFDs are
pulled,
looking
right?
spicy.
Mhm. I am linking you though, Winky.
Oh, you got some. You're linky winking. Okay.
The intro poll from No CC and RFD where Dustman
Yeah,
almost died.
absolutely. We can watch this. This is their intro poll. You said.
Mhm.
So they just walk in, and they just pull everything. Is that what I'm hearing here?
Pretty much.
It looks like for Ompi's team, Calamity fell down a layer, so they had to jump down to rescue her.
Oh no, they must have been going for some type of skip here.
Mhm.
Look at, they're just holding W.
I'm out of range.
Sorry if it's difficult for you guys to see in chat. I'll make it a little bigger if I can.
No worries, clips are always annoying.
I love the different routes.
Yeah,
they're
look at
they're
this.
just
So-
dropping target. They're literally pulling.
So
Look
this
at
is-
Dusty.
Yeah, this is a section of oh my god, Dusty.
Dusty
This is a
has
section
1
of
HP.
Quillboard. Yeah, this is a section of Quillboars that just doesn't count. So their response to it was, okay, let's drop
Let's not
target
do
dummies
it.
and just press W through it to exactly where we want to start the dungeon.
Oh my god.
And they'll evade bug up there. They won't.
They'll
path
evade
all the
bug.
way
So
around?
in classic, it can't find a path around if the path isn't loaded basically on the player minimap.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So here we have See You Next Circus. This is our #1 lead team. This is where Calamity fell down, and what I was hearing is they had to run back, and that's going to add some time. That I'm sure that's not what they were running out of the run, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We got big plays. So the way they prefer to do their runs is most of the time we've seen Ompi is kind of just the big damager. It's playing around your mage essentially. Just pull big, arcane explode, move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, immolation oil like every single pack I'm seeing here as well.
Oh yeah.
It adds so much damage actually.
It's huge.
Oh my god, if you go into Dax Dog's stream, you can see Diamond Dax the Warrior pulling a Memnar right now.
Oh, so they jumped up the wall.
Mage
Already
just died in Gorilla Milk.
Gorilla Milk just went
Table
down?
slam. Yeah, Cath. They did a big pull and the mage died.
Oh no. We have our first death of the day, guys.
Level
Shoutouts to
43
Gorilla
mage.
Milk, shoutouts to Table Slam.
It's an F.
Oh, that's a big F. Yeah, they'll still be able to 4-man this the rest of the day. I
Oh, they
hope.
pulled the bosses with it. That's what it was.
Oh,
It was a big pull with
Jesus.
Morgan.
Let's check in on Vidir. Looks like they're getting ready to start their Cath run right now. They're gonna open the door, and this is gonna be a giant pull. Little terrifying, actually. Looks like they're letting.
Losing your mage on the first one. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Mage is like, if there was a DPS meter at the end of these runs, Mage would be so very far ahead of everything else. It would
The
not be
mage
close.
is still at the top
I can't
of the
cast
funnel,
that.
and he's been dead for half of it.
Yeah.
The mage is still up
but,
the
hey, that's classic Mage for you. Ain't it?
Yeah.
So does the timer start when you enter the portal only, or does it start when you kill the first mob?
The timer starts when you enter the portal. And it doesn't stop until you have killed all bosses.
Chat, if you guys
See you
copy
next
and paste
session.
this, by the way, oh, Tumbly, thank you. If you guys copy and paste Fs, when somebody dies, it is customary we give them a free F. You don't need to be a sub in the channel to use the WinkyPF emote. So shout outs to our good friend Mage from Gorilla Milk that died in Scarlet Monastery Cathedral today. They will be fondly remembered until the next circuit when they have to level to like level 51
My goodness.
in 2 weeks to go again. Oh, it's a rough life, but yeah, we show respectful Fs to the fallen friends.
Yep.
And it looks like Chippo said they're waiting on their cooldowns. They're going to be walking into the dungeon here.
Yep. And it looks like Team Slow, Gordon Ramsay is instance locked, so they can't even start right now. Looks like they're gonna have to start their
no!
instances late. We'll sort
Gordon.
out what's going on in our VOD review, but yeah. Gordon Ramsay farming too many manual crowd pummelers
Probably, actually.
to even enter the
What's happening
dungeon.
with that?
So we've seen Vidir has cleared. It looks like they're the only team that has cleared the dungeon. I'm not sure. Did Calamity falling down make this run last longer? Or what's going on here?
It did. So I'm looking at Manic's stream from Backdrops Are Back, and they, I'm pretty sure, are ahead of. Oh no, they're not. Never mind.
Here we go. We're in Calf, guys. This is gonna be
Pull, man.
I hope Vidir Enjoyers lives until the final circuit. The way they pull these dungeons, I want to see them in BRD. It would be terrifying to watch them in BRD.
The Holy Nova, it's just like full commit. There's no.
The amount of mana potions, the amount of water that this priest must be going through. To be spamming one of the worst AoE spells in the game.
Not only that, but just like the insanity that is just holding W and
claiming to have a paladin tank.
Somehow their health never drops. Like when they do these massive pulls.
Yeah.
It's the Holy Nova just topping everybody off.
I'm interested though, like, would you ever expect to see Holy Nova used this much? I think it accounts for like 20% of Raizuko's damage. 60% is like grenades, but
it's so
is that
much
something that makes
mana.
sense to you?
You'd have to like pop a pot at the beginning of a pull, and then I don't know. There's just so much mana management going into it.
How did they get?
I'd be so nervous you wouldn't have enough mana to heal if something went wrong. You know what I mean? But you have to commit because they need to die.
So we did the
health potions before. It'd be fine.
The trash requirements, by the way, for Scarlet Monastery are very, very easy. It's any mob that's standing on grass is required.
So Gorilla Milk just finished Cath. That was the longest pull ever. The same pull that Mage just died.
Hey, you know what? Mad respect for going for the Giga Pull, right?
Totally.
This will be interesting. I have this crazy feeling they're just going to open those doors and send in the bird to the bosses.
Okay, so no CC are just about to pull the last boss in RFD.
Alright, we've got no CC up.
So just finishing off that pack, they'll be done with trash, and they've just got 2 in cash left, and then I guess they're heading over to Scarlet Monastery.
Yeah, it looks like Circus is just ahead of them, midway through the event.